This is the biggest tortoise the world has ever seen. You are about to see the world's biggest tortoise, the world's biggest cow, and the world's biggest hybrid cat. Basically, some of the biggest animals you'll find on our planet. You might want to stay till the very end because the world's biggest tortoise will shock you. Meet Ralph, the giant continental rabbit, who comes from a family of record-breaking rabbits. This is not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. Ralph's father, Roberto, was the world's heaviest rabbit at one time, and Ralph's mother, Amy, dethroned Ralph's father as the new heaviest. Sadly, she died of a heart attack, and young Ralph grew up to take on the title of the world's heaviest rabbit. But he was not without competition, as another rabbit by the name of Darius took the title from him until he came back to reclaim it. It's a pretty interesting story. Sounds like some kind of rabbit version of Game of Thrones. Still, Ralph sits on the throne as the biggest rabbit in the world, with a weight of 25 kilograms or 55 pounds, and a diet of about $90 per day. Ralph's owner, Pauline Grant, says she actually took Ralph to see a medium in order to find out the mystery behind his huge size. She says the medium speculated that it could be due to spiritual possession. Whatever the case may be, Ralph still holds the title for the world's biggest rabbit. And if you think Ralph is cool, wait till you see the other gargantuan creatures we have on this list. Now, let's move forward as we go all the way to Western Australia to see a cow so big that the owner couldn't even put it through a processing machine. This is Knickers. He is the biggest cattle in Australia. He stands at a massive 6.4 feet, dwarfing surrounding cattle, and he weighs about 2,800 pounds. Knickers is a Holstein cattle, and although his breed tends to grow very huge in respect to cattle size, Knickers seems to be pushing the boundary. Just look at him next to all his other mates. It's not exactly clear what the reason for Knickers' incredible size is. His parents are not particularly huge, and he didn't really show any sign of abnormalities as a calf. He just started growing and didn't stop until he got really huge. The funny thing is, as big as Knickers is, he is not the biggest cattle ever recorded. That award goes to an Italian Chianina ox by the name of Bellino. Still, Knickers is an impressive giant to look at. And yes, big cattle is somewhat strange, but what's even stranger is a big cat with questionable parentage. Say hello to Hercules the liger, the world's largest living cat. Now you might be wondering, what exactly is a liger? Well, a liger is a hybrid cat born from the crossbreeding of a male lion and a female tiger, hence the name liger. Depending on what you know about wildlife and hybrid genetics, it's possible that you haven't heard of a liger before, nor did it ever cross your mind that a lion could even mate with a tiger. Naturally, it doesn't happen often, as tigers and lions don't normally find themselves in the same region or habitat, and even if they do, it's very unlikely that they're going to mate. Although the ancestors of the modern-day lion and tiger were believed to have had overlapping habitats which promoted the existence of ligers in the wild. These days, ligers are mostly bred artificially, raised in captivity, and they're extremely rare. In truth, there are only about 100 ligers in the world as of 2021, so it wouldn't be surprising if you've never heard of one. The breeding of ligers is actually considered taboo and controversial in most zoos. There's an ethical system that prevents such breeding practices, and it can be understood by the classic, just because we can doesn't mean we should mentality. Ligers are somewhat the best of both worlds, as they tend to be less aggressive than both lions and tigers. They're sociable, they love swimming, they're strong and fast, and they tend to grow bigger than their parents, hence the size of Hercules. Hercules is the world's biggest cat. He's about 3.33 meters long with a weight of 118 kilograms. To put this in context, the average lion is about 2 meters long and weighs between 170 and 230 kilograms. So the relative size and weight of Hercules dwarfs any known lion. Hercules lives in the wildlife preserve in North Carolina called Myrtle Beach Safari. Coming up next is Lolong, the world's largest crocodile ever held in captivity. Lolong was a saltwater crocodile that lived in the Philippines, but he was captured in a creek called Bunawan on the 3rd of September, 2011. The odd part is, it took up to 100 people in about 3 weeks before the crocodile hunters would successfully capture Lolong. They said he was so aggressive that he broke his restraint several times. Now, you're probably wondering, why would they need to capture the crocodile in the first place? Other than being just a massive beast in the creek, Lolong was the prime suspect for a lot of persons who have lost their lives. Specifically, a fisherman and a 12-year-old girl, not to mention several buffaloes in the area. A big crocodile means a big appetite. When Lolong was measured by Adam Britton of National Geographic, Lolong measured about 20 feet in length. That's about the length of 4 park benches put together, or 2 basketball hoops in a straight line. Lolong was taken to the Bunawan Ecotourism Park, and he was made the centerpiece, being a marvel to onlookers from far and wide. Lolong even got a TV series based on him in the Philippines, and the show is extremely popular. Sadly, the real Lolong died in 2013 due to cardiac arrest and pneumonia. One would expect such a beast to die in an epic adventure, but he didn't. Lolong lived for more than 50 years though, so he's probably seen his fair share of adventures regardless. Speaking of tall adventures, we just have to talk about one of the tallest creatures on the planet, a giraffe by the name of Forrest. Giraffes have always been considered tall, but on average they measure about 15 feet. That's extremely tall for sure, but Forrest takes it to a new level. Forrest is about 18 feet tall at the age of 12. He's so tall that in order for the Guinness Book of World Records to measure him, they had to create a new type of measuring rig, as well as a new kind of feeder so that they could measure him at his full height. It took several months before Forrest could get accustomed to the feeder so the measurement could be taken, and almost as instantly as he was measured, Forrest was crowned the tallest giraffe in the world, a giraffe that's over 3 times the height of Dwayne Johnson. Forrest lives in a zoo in Queensland, Australia, and he's lived there since he was about 2 years old. And at the time of his coronation, Forrest had fathered 12 calves, which is refreshing considering that some giraffes are considered endangered. Now, we can't talk about the largest animals in the world without mentioning the Earth's largest land mammal, the elephant. Elephants are creatures that are synonymous with size, as well as big ears that help them fly, although that last one is more fiction than fact. Elephants are mostly found in Africa and Asia, with the species varying based on location. The African elephants are the biggest of them all, and among them are a breed called the Tuskers, with their tusks growing out very, very long. The biggest elephant ever recorded was found in Angola, being at a towering 13 feet and weighing up to 24,000 pounds. The average African elephant weighs between 5,000 and 14,000 pounds, which should tell you just how huge this fellow is. A fun fact about the elephant, it takes about 2 years for a pregnant elephant to give birth. Yes, 2 years. This is because the elephant brain needs a while to develop so it can survive in the real world. That's why there's not more elephants roaming around. Another more sad reason is that poachers often hunt elephants for their tusks or ivory. It is coveted by a lot of people, hence it's very expensive and its acquisition is illegal. But that doesn't stop poachers from trying, hence why the elephant population is in decline. In fact, as of 2013, about 20,000 elephants were lost due to poaching. Still, conservation efforts are being carried out to help these creatures live on for generations. Now is time for the moment you've all been waiting for. The world's largest tortoise. This will take us to the bird island of Seychelles, where we will meet the over 170-year-old Esmeralda. That's right, Esmeralda is over 170 years old. And, despite the name, Esmeralda is actually a male, and he's seen both world wars and the end of slavery. Yet, his age isn't the only great thing about him. Esmeralda is an Aldabra tortoise, a species that is fairly common on Bird Island. And he is the biggest of them all. He weighs about 670 pounds. That's heavier than a car or the average vending machine. It's hard to fathom carrying around that much weight all day, but somehow Esmeralda manages it. It also makes you wonder if the tortoise can actually live without its shell. Surely if the shell is so heavy, the tortoise will be more happy to live without it. Well, that's the thing. Not only is the shell a huge load, but it's also a very key part of the tortoise's skeletal system. So removing the shell is the same thing as killing the tortoise. So for the foreseeable future, the tortoise, as always, is stuck with its huge shell. And honestly, it doesn't look like Esmeralda minds all that much. Although it may seem tasking for a human, when you've been carrying a load for almost 2 centuries, you're bound to get used to it.